can continue, court can proceed with the remainder of the jurors.
Okay, so Honorable Kuma, if I could understand what you're saying, in other words, you were advocating for an amendment instead
rather than
appealing.
Exactly. Okay. Rather than removing it altogether,
okay,
we were advocating for an amendment of the provision. Because one of their reasons was that if jurors don't attend, if a single member doesn't attend, court cannot proceed. So as far as we are concerned, yes, that is bad. That's a virus. So we can get rid of that law and insert a provision that is similar to the provision for assessors in the same Criminal Procedure Act. In the same Criminal Procedure Act, it says, Section 186 says, if one of the jurors, if one of the assessors cannot attend, court can proceed with the remainder. So in this case, why can't we do the same for jurors? Okay, that was one reason why I was against removal of the juror system. Secondly, we are talking of delays in court or whatsoever. Delays in court, we all know the numerous cases that are before the court system presently. So many cases. But cases relating to juror system, cases requiring the presence of jury, are limited to only two: treason and murder. Nothing else. For the others, like robbery with aggravation, wounding with intent, other high court cases, conspiracy to commit felony, fraudulent conversion, and so many others, need to be tried by high courts with jury. Okay? But Section 139 makes provision for all three. It's the umbrella. Section 139 says matters can be tried by jury, by assessors, by judge and assessors, or by judge alone. And then further explanation is being given by Section 40, 41, and 42. I mean Section 140, 141, and 142 to support or to further explain or make possible Section 139. Section 140, the preceding section, says in any case there is room. Section 139 says there is room for trial by jury, trial by judge and assessors, trial by judge and jury, trial by judge and assessors, trial by judge alone.
Okay. Based
on that, now Section 140 now came in and said, if the assessors, if an accused person choose, the accused person can elect for his own matter, of which is an accused, for his own matter to be tried by assessors. There's that provision. The accused can elect for my matter to be tried by assessors. That is Section 140. Section 141 says the Attorney General also has the right, apart from murder and treason. Those are only two exclusive. All the others, they should be tried by jury. But that is an exception now. 140, 141, 142 provide exceptions to others like robbery with aggravation, conspiracy to commit felony, wounding with intent, that's supposed to be tried in the High Court with jury. The exception now says, Section 140, 41 now says, as an exception, the Attorney General can also elect, apply to the court for the matter to be tried by judge alone.
Okay.
Okay? And then Section 140, 42 also says the accused person also has the right to apply to the court for his own matter to be tried by judge alone. So in all of these cases, if we believe that the ends of justice, in fact, for 141, the reason was if the Attorney General didn't see it fit that the ends of justice can best be met in terms of speedy trial, in terms of fair trial by judge alone, he can say so. The only no-go area is murder and treason. Okay, so when you talk about delays in court, so many cases, how many times treason cases come to this country? How many times? Treason cases are exclusive.
Okay,
murder cases are a little bit more than treason cases.
All right,
but you will agree with me that they are far lesser than the other lesser offenses, although they are all high court matters that should be tried by jury.
All right,
but those provide exceptions.
Continue to stay with us in the program. He is Honorable Daniel Kuma, and he is the deputy leader of the All People's Congress. in Parliament. We also have Honorable Marie Conte, who is the chair of the Legislative Committee in Parliament. Honorable, welcome again to the program.
Thank you.
So now, you've keenly listened to Honorable Daniel Kuma, and I'm sure you've read a series of articles coming from other learned judges, legal people, since the
delay justice. The evidence is there already, without stating some of the reasons. You know, sir, my honorable leader already stated some of the reasons. You also, jurors come late. You talk about easy compromise. All these things delay justice. And the sooner justice is, you understand?
So, Honorable, you are aware that the court is already overwhelmed with cases that have not been, some of them have not been assigned to judges. People are all over the place crying. In recent times, people have issues with the justice system because of the delay in court. And do you think the jurors are responsible for all that?
For cases that require jurors.
Honorable Marie Conte, maybe that the lack of trust in the justice system, insofar as cases, trials that are determined by jurors are concerned. If you leave this political exposed or political sensitive matters in the hands of jurors who are appointed by the state, sometimes if that particular matter is in the interest of one or two people or powers that be, then we have the challenge of that particular judge to maybe
said jurors who've been appointed by the state. So if I tell you in background, the truth of the matter here is, you understand, we have a system that most people don't even know how it even came into existence, why we still hold on to it. I'll tell you, there are two issues here. Political mistrust and also sentimental attachment. Why? That's what we can meet. Sometime back in 1066 in the UK, everybody knows everybody, the origin. They bring neighbors to come sit and talk about what they know about a particular case to help whosoever is discussing this issue. That process went through different transformation. Later on, sometime in Australia, in fact, they even used to only call landowners to even sit to form the peers, so you're going to be tried by a jury of your peers. We saw that even this in the slave trade. We watch those movies, you understand, you have slave masters sitting there forming the jury, and the black man there who ran away from the plantation, they say you're going to be tried by a jury of your peers. When you turn, you see all your slave masters there, they are going to try you. They are going to determine. But it has moved. Most countries, in fact, you understand, ended this particular trial by jury after colonial rule. Nigeria, Kenya, Malaysia, and so many others. In fact, even in Ghana, it's strongly being contested. So difficult to understand, to sustain in a justice sector where we need so much resources to do so many things. You understand? Difficult to even get commitment and dedication of jurors. The argument of integrity comes in, which is on both sides. It can even be on the side of the judge, it can be on the side of the jury. So that's not part of it. So it delays justice. So we have to change with current trend.
The argument of Honorable Daniel Kuma is that you have other matters that are supposed to be tried in court without jurors, but yet there is delay in the justice system in the court. That he is just saying that we hardly get cases of treason and what treason and murder, especially treason. We hardly get them, and he is just citing some of these examples that we have so many issues that we should be paying attention to rather than doing this. And he was suggesting that we go for an amendment instead of removing it totally.
So is it wrong to even deal with it to avoid the delay in those issues? That I still hold on to this sentimental attachment that we still have to it. Justice system is becoming transformative. We also have to move on. But you understand, here we remove the death penalty, and at some point recently people were also crying for it. This is the society where we find ourselves, which was one of the biggest bugs in our system. It was removed. Today we don't have, you understand, crimes punishable by death anymore. which were some of the basis, for having that kind of jury system. So, what are we talking? Are we ready to change or not? Are we ready to progress or not? And one thing about the 5th and 6th parliaments, we'll pass progressive bills. The situation is never see this like every other normal issue. Even in countries where they still have the jury system, there is still miscarriage of justice.
So for me, what is interesting there is why was it allowed in the first place? Because at the end of the day, such a removal was quite significant. Although if you listen to the words of the speaker, he seemingly downplayed it, talking about time and among other arguments. For me, the bigger picture there is what impact will this decision have on the judiciary, on the dispensing of justice. And let me just shock the audience that both sides of this argument never substantiated their arguments. Not the AG, not the opposition, no proponents or opponents submitted empirical evidence to say this is bad or this is good. And for the benefit of our audience, again, I will refer them to a specific review that was done by Ideas, and that gives us an insight. It's perhaps for a further reading. It's called Judicial Review Systems in West Africa, a Comparative Analysis. It was sponsored. You can find it online, and that gives us an idea as to what's the kind of judicial systems being used, their merits and their demerits. And for me, I will not hold a brief for either side of the argument, but I'll look at the bigger picture there. And what's the first big point to note? The first big point there to note is that out of 149, only 103 members of parliament voted on the issue. You ask yourself, what about the remaining MPs? And that constitutes 63.13%. On such a very mammoth and elephantine issue, it's my estimation that the representative function of the lawmakers, yes, it was done, but it could have been done better. Because at the end of the day, we are getting the feedbacks now because people will tell you that our voices were not heard, we were not consulted, much room was not given. And it's quite unfortunate that they allowed themselves to be ambushed by the executive. Because if it was not part of the original proposal that there should be a removal but reduction, you ask yourself, why we are MPs, why we are journalists barred from entering committee room number 1? Was that not an opportunity for all sides to have presented their case and for the public to have been adequately informed and to make informed judgment? Could it not have averted these misconceptions and misgivings? So I think moving forward, that aspect of representation does not go away. Whether it's necessary, I think yes, it's a necessary amendment. But whether it's timely, it can't be timely because there are gross political misconceptions, not only in the House of Parliament, but in the country. So if you put that into perspective, I think yes, much more could have been done other than the procedural argument. So the bigger elephant in the room, will the President assent this law or will he veto it? It will not be unprecedented, but it will be a rare species.
That was Melvin Mansari, parliamentary reporter and analyst, giving his contribution on the jury system. This is On the Spot, coming to you live on SLBC FM 99.92. Still to come in the program, Access. We get update from Access of Health Facility in Kailan District, and one person died at a mudslide at Kongoton Wharf. We'll get update there for my colleague Nenduwa Thonga. But first, let's join Yvette Goldsmith for the news summary.
A mudslide at Congo Town Wharf has claimed the life of one person and rendered several others homeless. Disaster occurred during the heavy downpour in the early hours on Sunday, 7th July 2024. Parliament has enacted the Criminal Procedure Act 2024. The new act repeals and replaces the historic Criminal Procedure Act 1965 after a dramatic encounter between lawmakers from both the ruling SLPP and opposition APC. The bill finally saw the light of the day. And finally, the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, has organized a national town hall engagement on sexual and gender-based violence in the country. The objective of the engagement was to raise awareness about sexual gender-based violence, encourage community participation and dialogue, and promote support services for survivors. And that's the news summary.
Many thanks, Eva Goldsmith. A mudslide at Congo Town Wharf has claimed the life of one person and rendered several others homeless. Okay, well, we'll leave that story and we take this one from Kainan District, as access to standard healthcare facility has been a major challenge for people in Sandawo in Pengwa Chiefdom in Kainan District. The healthcare facility is faced with different challenges ranging from staff quarter, space to administer emergency cases, especially at night. This situation now forces people in that section to go for treatment in Kono or neighboring Guinea. My colleague Momo Sise visited the deprived community health center and he has joined us online. Good afternoon and welcome to On the Spot, Momo Sise. Good afternoon. So Momo, tell us for how long have this particular healthcare facility have been battling with such challenges?
It's been for time for the past decades now, according to reports that at Sandaru in the Pembe Achibon Kailan districts. And one major concern is that Sandaru in Kailan district is a very hard to reach community, and it's one of the deprived settlements in this part of the area. And the chiefdom is bordering with the Republic of Guinea and that of Kono district. Those are the neighboring communities that the chiefdom is sharing border with at the same time. And despite that, when you get to the place, especially Sandaru, which is the chiefdom headquarters town, where this community health center is situated, the people are really finding it very difficult to access a standard health facility. In the sense, even the structures that they are having is not that up to standard, you know, in terms of accommodating patients coming from other areas around those vicinities. And of course, the community as well, the health center is teaching for 11 catchment communities at the same time, which is very, very difficult. And of course, when I get to the point, you know, I discussed with the administration at the center, and I even spoke with some of the patients, and they told me that they are coming from far off communities, covering 7-8 miles to access better health facility at that place. But when you look at the health center, it's not that much encouraging for patients, and those were the concerns raised by some of the patients' relatives, and including the patients as well. They do not have areas to admit patients, you know, especially in the aspect of handling emergency cases. Those are very key areas which people are very concerned about.
Okay, so
and those areas are yeah.
So as you mentioned earlier, you've already had contact. You spoke with the doctors or the nurses there. So were you able to ask them whether they have contact with the Ministry of Health here in Freetown, or have there been any communication with them?
Yes, you know, when I asked them, they said they have so many reports with regards to the status of that center through the district health management team, especially the DMO is aware, and every other, you know, stakeholders within the health sector in Kailan district are very aware of some of those challenges. But they do not have access to get onto the Ministry of Health in Freetown. They do not have access to hierarchy of Ministry of Health in Freetown. But at district level, they have sent in their reports. You know, they have made several recommendations, several concerns have been raised, you know, as an administrator of that facility. But to no avail, it seems that those reports are just getting into deaf ears, and nobody is taking actions with regards to the challenges that they are faced with now in that community. You know, and even when I spoke to some of the stakeholders, especially the traditional authorities of that chiefdom, they also mentioned the same, that they have made several concerns, several attempts have been made, but it seems like people are not coming to their aid. So this is the kind of support and this is the kind of challenge that they are faced with now in that part of the country.
So how populated is that particular chiefdom Pengua in Kailaon district?
It's a highly populated community in the sense, and when you take a look at the community of itself, it's one of the mining communities in Kailaon district, especially the gold mining. So it's almost a very deprived community as I talk to you. And in fact, when we spoke to some of the people coming from Guinea, because most of the patients that are getting there are people coming from Guinea and as well as Kono district, covering far distances to access that particular center. But the center is totally deprived. And of course, even the staff that are working there are not on payroll. They are volunteers, or if not, they are community service providers.
Okay, so why I'm asking is because lately I was part of an engagement with the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, and they've already made a lot of plans, for the district level. So I think one of the things you should talk with the management or those that are in that particular health center is that they should have contact with the Ministry of Health, because as I speak, they are on their toes and they are implementing medical facilities to different healthcare facilities across the country.
I think that could be one of the steps, but I believe if government is getting this now, I think that would be a very good stepping stone in terms of assisting that particular community, because the community is totally deprived and it's very hard to reach in this part of the area. So they do not even have access to contact whoever they could contact in the ministry in terms of helping them or in terms of giving them the support that they want for that particular health center.
Okay, Momo, I'll try my best to intervene and to pass on your message to the Ministry of Health.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. He's my colleague Momo Sise from Kailaon District, giving us update on the deprived healthcare facility at Pengua Chiefdom in Kailaon District. This is on the spot, coming to you live on SLBC on FM 99.9. Well, flooding in the Western Hair has been a concern for many, and the Disaster Management Agency has seen a lot of risk and a lot of things happening. In the studio, I've been joined by Mohamed Ba, who is the Director of Communications, and he is presently in the studio. Good afternoon and welcome to On the Spot.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Mohamed Ba, I know you've been seeing a lot of videos on social media and what is happening in regards to flooding.
Yes. So the National Disaster Management Agency yesterday, visited 6 communities to actually conduct risk assessment based on reports received from community members relating to floods in those communities, and to witness firsthand the destruction caused by the floods and how people are relating with the environment in those communities. And it was very appalling because since the establishment of the institution in 2020 to date, we have been able to do a lot of interventions in communities, and we have tried to ensure that we focus primarily on our risk mitigation strategies in ensuring that the vulnerabilities that communities are exposed to are addressed. And the approaches that we've been using ranges from engaging community leaders, because they are providing leadership in those communities. Of course, also establishing community volunteers who are there in these communities that we've mapped to be prone communities, to be drawing our attention to most of these inimical activities undertaken by people within these communities. Those activities involve the construction of houses on waterways, the throwing of dirt on the waterways as well, thereby clogging those drainages, and when it rains, the water will not have its way. And the challenges are so many, unregulated constructions in these communities. So what we've done is to ensure that we work closely with the Ministry of Lands, because they are primarily responsible for the issuance of building permits. And then once we have concluded what we have initiated, the discussions we've initiated already, definitely it will actually create a platform for NDMA to be involved in the process of giving out these building permits, so that we'll be able to determine whether those areas are fit and proper, and does not pose risk to the inhabitants in those communities, because it is very crucial. We have not been witnessing natural disasters in Sierra Leone for the longest time now, and what we've been witnessing are disasters specifically man-made, because two primary factors are responsible for most of the floods that we witness in Freetown specifically. One is the fact that people are constructing houses as they wish, wherever they wish, highly unregulated, and also people don't manage their waste very well. And these are the two major factors that are responsible for the floods that we'll be seeing in Freetown.
Okay, so Mr. Ba, for a very long time we've been having interviews with people from management, National Protected Area Authority, and different management authorities, but we've been still seeing people building structures in waterways and nothing is being done. They are still there, their structures are there, and you talk to the Ministry of Lands, they will say we don't give them building permits, back and forth. So fast forward, what will you be doing in order to relocate some of those people, or to remove them in those places, whether violently or whatever way?
If you are involved in the business of managing disasters, you know that the issues are segmented. The issues, they all have their own different challenges, and unique situations. Say, for example, we've mapped certain communities that we know that they are prone, Kube, Susan's Bay, Mabela, and those other slum communities within Freetown. They are there. We know that they are prone to flooding, you understand, because they are on the receiving end. Of course, if you look at the topography of Freetown, you know that once it rains, the water will just go down, and it will go to those communities. So because of the challenges around relocation, you just can't ask people out of those places without providing a proper relocation plan for them, or an alternative where they should go and live. What we have been doing is to ensure that we devise adaptation measures for these people, to ensure that they are able to adapt to where they live at the moment, because we don't have the wherewithal to ensure that we relocate them. And these are Sierra Leoneans. It has human rights implications and so threats implications and several other challenges with that. And that has been working on well. That has been going on well for us, because what we've been able to do is to ensure that we reduce the impact of floods on their population in those communities. And since 2022 to date, we have greatly minimized the impact of floods on their lives and properties in those communities because of the interventions that we've been making. We have been clearing their gutters. We have been identifying other hazards that they're exposed to. We have established community volunteers in those communities that always serve as ambassadors, draw our attention to illegal construction or people constructing on waterways. We'll go there and we've demolished structures in some of these communities. We've put a stop to structures that are being constructed where they should not be constructed in these communities. So for other communities, for example, that are not prone to disaster, their own situation also, flooding, their own situation also is unique, because primarily it is either they are not managing their waste very well, or they are constructing where they should not be constructing.
Okay, so
even though they are not prone, but now like Regent community has now been categorized by us as a flood prone community, simply because people are constructing where houses unregulatedly. You understand? And that has caused massive challenge, that there is no waterway, and people are building high retaining walls, diverting water into the community or into some other people's houses and stuff like that. So we have been intervening and going into these communities, engaging the chiefs to ensure that they are able to put a stop to these things. We work together collaboratively with the Ministry of Lands and Environment so that we'll be able to put a stop. At least people should not continue constructing houses in such a manner.
So this brings me to your collaboration with Freetown City Council when it comes to waste management. So how have you been working closely?
We have been working very well. I must admit that we have been getting collaboration from Freetown City Council, their staff, Most times they attend our interpedia coordination meetings, and we've been intervening and implementing interventions together in communities. I could remember we did a joint visit at Wellington to identify prone areas and ensure that we provide alternative solutions to them, to that particular community. So we have been working very well. The challenges that we've been faced with is the fact that people are stubborn, I must admit, and that yes, indeed, there are dumping site challenges in most of the hilly communities, but that is not a justification for them to be throwing their dirt in waterways. We have done conscientization, a lot of conscientization, telling them about the risk of throwing dirt in waterways, and telling them the significance of not throwing dirt in waterways, because it will clog, and when it clogs, the water will not have a way to pass if there is rain. So we'll continue this engagement, and we'll continue to admonish the public. For those that are at very high risk, we have encouraged them to leave. Yesterday we encouraged more than 400 people to leave their homes, because the homes were really not safe for them where they were residing. It's not really safe for them, and we successfully asked them to leave, and they left their house, the places where they resided yesterday. Our only concern is that we will continue to monitor to ensure that they did not return to that particular place again. So we'll continue the engagement. It is not an easy job for us. We admit the challenges, because we have gotten it wrong for the longest time. And NDMA was only established in 2020, and most of these poor urban planning and of course urbanization and people constructing houses where they wish has been going on for many years. So for us to get it right, it has to take time, but that is why the NDMA was established, to ensure that we come in to build the capacity of these communities to be resilient and reduce the impact of disasters on their lives where they are.
Okay, so with a lot of problems still happening, we look forward to speedy recovery or solutions. Thank you very much. It's Mameba from NDMA. Well, we'll continue the program still on disasters. Over the weekend, a tragic struck some residents at Sise Drive, Regent Village in the Western Aero District as heavy rains caused the wall to collapse, destroying 4 households and leaving more than 20 people homeless. My colleague Esther Sako visited the affected community and bring us this report.
Suffered severe consequences from a torrential downpour, with certain areas bearing the brunt of the weather's fury. I am presently at Sise Drive, a common spot known as BBC in the Regent community, and what you can see behind me is the aftermath of a heavy downpour that caused the fence to fall down, and a lot of people here have been rendered homeless. The collapsed wall demolished 4 zinc structures that shelter recounted the devastation that has made her lost everything and even sustained injuries from falling debris during the incident.
Pikiwa go left to this minembaya. As I come for car lock the domo na the veranda and I enter again. As I come for car lock the domo na akomona, as I turn me back, na yanda stop, na the all thief for them. So then me on a neighbor every day side where the thief for them. So all thief for them now, the panic for them, I mean back in jail. From now they take it out, they feel pain. Nobody no can wait to happen, nobody no can talk to me. For saying na all safe.
Abibatu Fode was in her kitchen when the wall collapsed, narrowly escaping through a small hole, while a mother was injured and subsequently hospitalized. Residents affected by the disaster pointed to the poor structural integrity of the wall as the cause. Mohamed Kanjakouma, a contractor who lost everything in the disaster, pleaded for assistance.
You can see police all on damage, can be defense all on for them, watching the police. As soon as they see me, for saying it's a great or any other thing, I see one great I rod not inside the retain, they wouldn't bring the police. All this happen, I come, I ask for the landlord, I go meet him. So now you learn this place. All this happen, we do for Duna. So we don't go meet the people, we don't go meet the chief, we don't go meet the councillor, they don't come meet the man. Even though the first place, the man say, you know, they're not responsible, they're responsible for anybody in the offense you care about.
Residents say, despite the widespread devastation, there has been no communication from either governmental or non-governmental organizations, nor from the wall's owner. Dr. Ibrahim Shiagashaw is the owner of the house. He described the collapse of the wall as an accident caused by heavy rainfall exacerbated by construction work done by his neighbor years ago. He said despite warnings and reinforcement efforts, part of the wall collapsed, affecting nearby homes, but stated that out of humanitarian concern, he will consider.
I engaged the person who sold the place to them. They call him Pastor. I spoke with him. He brought the matter up to my attention. I spoke with him and the councillor came there. We had a discussion and I told them out of humanitarian feeling, definitely I will see what I can do.
Fearing further collapses, nearby residents have evacuated their homes, calling for the removal of the remaining sections of the wall to prevent additional tragedies. Director of Communications, National Disaster Management Agency, Mohamed Elba, stated that there are plans to assess the situation at Regent and other communities affected by the rains.
We have not received reports yet. It is only now brought to our attention by you, and definitely be rest assured that we will ask our assessment officers to go there immediately and ensure that they conduct the assessment. So based on the report of the assessment, we will now know what steps to take, moving forward, because we cannot take steps without the assessment. The assessment will inform what steps to take moving forward, or what are the mechanisms that we will use in addressing that challenge.
Okay, so as residents in Regent Village grapples with the aftermath of this disaster, the urgent need remains for immediate assistance and structural intervention to protect the community from further calamities.
So from there, let's now join Yvette Goldsmith for the review of our frontline newspapers.
Okay, I'll start here with the Times newspaper. The front page here says why Sierra Leonean must embrace the Criminal Procedure Act 2024. You can find more stories on this newspaper. I move on to the Nature newspaper. The picture of the president here. President Bio makes history. Deputy Planning Minister condemns farm bull talk. I move on to the Times News. The News Times Daily. First Lady Dr. Fatima Bio urges SLBC North American to mobilize. You can see the picture of the First Lady here. President Bio applauds Tinubu re-elections as ECOWAS chairman at the 65th session. I move on to the AZ newspaper. President Bio registers commitment to promote peace, security in West Africa. Another story here says State and Defense Council attacked each other. And that's the newspaper review for today's edition of On the Sports.
Okay, we go over to you again for a final news summary.
The Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, in collaboration with the Minister of Information and Civic Education, has organized a national town hall engagement on sexual and gender-based violence in the country. Parliament has enacted the Criminal Procedure Act 2024. The new act repeals and replaces the historic Criminal Procedure Act 1965 after a dramatic encounter between lawmakers from both the ruling SLPP and opposition APC. The bill finally saw the light of the day. The act will be used to address matters before a criminal court without the service of jurors as in the old act. And finally, a mudslide at Congo Town Wharf has claimed the life of one person and rendered several others homeless. Disaster occurred during the heavy downpour in the early hours on Sunday, 7th July 2024. Eyewitnesses told SLBC that the disaster occurred as a result of dumping of garbage in the drainages. And that's the summary.
And that's all we have time for in this edition of On the Sport, coming to you live from SLBC. Technical support was provided by Gerald Cecily Mubakar, produced the program. I am Cynthia Kamara. Goodbye.
I go buy you lunch, bruh. Man don't make money.
You just make money? This middle nets are just wakes it.
Well, my never will sleep, so I decide for bites that are dog race, na junior pets.
They are available 24 hours a day? Yes, go to the website, you go see more.
Win quick. Go now we shop there or visit www.geniusbet.sl. Face Genius Bet. You not genius. Play with sense. Members say gambling addictive.
Knowledge and truth are for father spread. Education Teenage pregnancy, child marriage, sexual and gender-based violence, and sexually transmitted infections, STIs, are at high rates in Sierra Leone. We see that 1 in 5 girls experience teenage pregnancy. 3 in 10 girls are married before the age of 18. Over 60% of women experience gender-based violence, and 1.7% of people are living with HIV. That is why the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education is reintroducing a program known as Child and Adolescent Health and Life Skills, CARS, in schools. The main goal is to build the skills and knowledge necessary for children and young adults to make healthy and informed choices over their bodies and health, to communicate clearly. MBSSE has consulted various experts in Sierra Leone to establish an age-appropriate and culturally relevant curriculum which will be taught across 7 school subjects, with hopes to improve the human capital and national development. CARS is here for good. Spread the news. This message is from the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education.
Hello, my people in the salon. The journey continue. Evangelist Success here. Hi from the slum.